Hey, we overcoming adversity, doing it at all costs, making wins at all loss. Yeah, the world is all lost, yeah. Ain't no turning back, we headed straight for the stars, yeah. Oh yeah, we overcoming adversity, doing it at all costs, making wins at all loss. Yeah, the world is all lost, yeah. Ain't no turning back, we headed straight for the stars, yeah. Oh yeah.
Welcome to Adversity Podcast. It's all about a transformational growth mindset and being resilient. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Michael Allison. And today we have on the show a really good friend of mine. He's a businessman, a husband, a father, and most important, a man of God. He has faced his own fair share of adversities from arrests, childhood trauma, and so much more that we'll get into for the show. Let's welcome to the show my good friend, Mr. James Graham. Welcome to the show, James. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. How you doing today, Michael?
I'm good, brother, man. Thank you so much for joining the show. I know we've spoken about this quite a few times, man, to share your story. After you told me some of the things that you've been through yourself, I just thought that you had an amazing story that I think the world should hear if you was open to sharing that story. So I just want to tell you, bro, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming on this platform. I know you're going to make an impact once people hear all of the things that you've been through yourself and gotten through, man. So welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, man. It's my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. It's really
Absolutely,
cool.
man. Let's jump into it, man. So like you got to a point now in the life, man, where like you're a man of God, you're serving him, you help leading in regards to like your groups, your business, your family, all these types of things. But I know that it was a struggle that you had in your life to get to this particular point. If you can share with us, bro, like a little bit about your upbringing and how you just got to this particular point in your life.
All right. So I'm the youngest of three boys. My oldest brother is 15 years older than me, and then my other brother was a year and a half older than me. And so I come from a father who was a military man. He's a old school military. So he's 81 now, but
Mhm.
so he's been around. So like they're harder edged from back in the day. He was a professional bodybuilder and a preacher, and also a hairdresser. So it was kind of weird having that, and a very loving mother who came from a large family of 13. My dad is Scotch Irish. My mom is Spaniard and Indian, like Mayan and Aztec kind of Indian, Mexican Indian. And then, so growing up, I went through a couple different neighborhoods, go through different schools, growing up in different neighborhoods, different schools. So, the old tale of finding a new start in life every time you move kind of thing happening in neighborhoods. So trials with kids in the neighborhood kind of stuff, and then eventually moving back to the same neighborhood. So we moved out west at one point, and then we moved back to the original neighborhood we moved away from. And so I was bounced around from different school districts, and I never really got a grounding on who my true friends were until later on in life. And even they turned out to not be like true friends. They were just evil companions or co-signers or people that you did dumb stuff with as kids that grew up to be dumber adults. I was one of them. So, uh, my brother, when I was younger, my brother and I, my youngest brother, or I'm the youngest, but my middle brother and I went to a Christian camp one year, and one of the gentlemen from the camp came back to the neighborhood and moved into the house with us after he had left another house with some other young boys in it. And the warning wasn't heard that he was mistreating them, and then he came into our house, and well, we fell into that as well. And so I was molested as a child by this individual, and it turns out I was also molested by my older brother's friends, which was 15-year older brother friends, as a really young child. So I have these damaging memories, and I got things that I can't remember that I know I experienced, kind of like weird stuff. But and then later on in the church, um, my father, being the man that he was, had a lot of air quote godly men around him, but I used to see the way they lived life outside of that. And a lot of the people that I got growing up with, I realized I didn't necessarily like the persons that they were. They weren't, in my eyes, in the way that I thought today, As a kid, it was different, but today I wouldn't look at them as like very godly or loving people. You know what I mean? It's probably why a lot of the damages that I suffered today, um, or suffered from before this started happening with me, came from some very prestigious people, so to say, you would think, men of God in the church kind of thing. So I have a mixed feeling about that. So I got mad at God at a young age. I got mad at people. I was hurt, and so in school, it showed in school too. Like I grew up going through these schools, but like I was afraid of God taking everybody away in the rapture, and I was alone. So I literally would like freak out thinking that like my whole family's gonna disappear. So I grew up with anxiety as a kid, and that faded away over time, of course, But somewhere along the line, I got mad enough to where I was like, I don't care, like I used to seek my older brother out if I knew he was in the same school and the same have the principal take me so I could look inside the classroom to make sure that he was still there, because if he was there, then it's like my family's here. God didn't take everyone, I would relax, but that as a child can scare the crap out of you, you know what I mean? So my brother used to mess with me too because he'd hide at home. He wouldn't let me know where he was, and I'd think everybody was gone. But that's just him being fun. But later on in life, growing up, we moved back into the neighborhood that we originally moved from. So one, two, three kind of moved, original house being born in, house that we moved to. My dad went through a really bad depression, took us out of our neighborhood and moved us miles and miles away, but still in the same state. And then we came back to the original neighborhood, and he moved us back over there too. So he went through a really bad depression. My mother went through that with us, trying to be the supporter of the family and stuff. He got cancer and he got really sick, and that plagued him for years and years and years. Multiple different surgeries, and he went from looking like the Hulk to like a broom with clothes on it. You know,
Wow.
that's heartbreaking. Because he was the world's strongest man to me. Growing up, and then I saw him just over time disintegrate. Because at one point in time he was a bodybuilder, state champion, three different states altogether. He came second. So it's like this is somebody that like when I looked at him, I not only did my dad represent Superman, he looked like Superman. So
Mhm.
a lot of people growing up around me they were afraid of my father because he was just this massive dude. And I got upset because when I was a kid, he couldn't protect me from those things.
Mhm.
And it sucked, because he had trust issues with people that he thought he trusted and whatnot. But later on, moving back into the neighborhood, I found myself in positions where my skin color wasn't accepted. I got jumped by some skinheads in the neighborhood. I watched my brother get his jaw broken by the same kids, um, and those kinds of things. Feeling helpless, and at the same time, but like my dad actually being the preacher and the big man, kind of like intervened at some way, and with the neighbor that we had where I got beat up by the kids, they actually went to their home and threatened them with guns. And so like I was like, yeah, cool, thanks, Dad. But so it's a lot of unhealthy kind of behaviors, you know what I mean, that we think are like, this is the way you should do it. It's really not, but this is what I grew up understanding, and if growing up as I was small, so I'm like 5'6", and
All right.
I had to fight a lot, but my dad took us and put us in martial arts. I grew up going to high school wrestling and all these things, and I thought that's the way that it was. But my dad's words of knowledge to me was like, dude, if you're gonna fight, hit him in the nose. If they can't see you, they can't fight, And then they put me in karate and all these other things, and I just went the wrong way with it, and I got in a lot of trouble for that. But later on in life, my middle brother, he died. He got killed on my surfboard. I had at this point in life, my teenage years, had started selling drugs, and I found the people that I got my drugs from to sell in church. I actually went to church with them. So this is a very weird way to have life presented to you. You know what I mean? And it
Right.
really didn't help because of the neighborhood that I lived in. They sold crack across the street from my house, literally. So it's like, okay, but so grew up surfing in the water as growing up as a surfer and a lifeguard. The neighborhood I grew up in, there was the homeboys and the crew, and then we went to church, and everything was great, but it was all very None of it
It
was
was
real.
all like a pot. Like everything was all in this old melting pot. It sounds like.
Yeah, dude. People used to describe me as like a pit bull and a chihuahua mixed together, and then after everything was done, I was like Lassie because like I had heart enough to care to pray or to help, because you get a guilty conscience when you go through certain things. And then again, I didn't want to go to hell, so it was really strange feeling. My brother dies, and then I end up tail spinning for almost 20 years. That was the apex thing for me to go, and I didn't care about life after that because I felt responsible for that. Like his parting words to me, like the morning that he left. Actually, he looked at me, he says, "Christian, am I gonna be okay?" My middle name's Christian. He said, "Am I gonna be okay?" And he's my older brother, looking at me, asking me if he's gonna be okay. And I was like, "Yeah, dude, you're in God's hands." I mean, his eyes looked like marbles. He wasn't there. I lost him somewhere along that journey he was on, whatever he was on at the moment. And I kissed him on the forehead and I said I loved him. And it's pretty much the last time I saw my brother. I got my surfboard back. I didn't get my brother back, and I didn't go with
Wow.
him. I should have gone with him because that's like one of the guilt things that we hold, like, because that's something that we did together as brothers, And so for years, I held on to that, and it was crippling inside. It would choke me up. You get that little apple inside there, and it's like you just can't swallow. And it sucks, man, because you can't breathe, you can't swallow, you can't feel, and you get mad, like you don't know where to do with these emotions, you don't know where to go with this feeling, this pain, and then it starts hitting in different areas. It like affects other people, it affects jobs, and then of course if you get drugs and alcohol involved at that point, it's because they were already there,
Right.
they just got worse, and then I started picking up DUIs and certain situations that I would get into. I mean, I had dropped out of high school, and so was my brother. He dropped out of high school, but he was really smart. It was really crazy how smart he was. He was almost, I guess you would say, on paper, he was a genius, But then, like, he just lost it because of everything that had happened, and he just disappeared into like a realm of like he's no longer there. So I got mad about that, and then he died. And then of course I struggled with my schooling. Turns out that they just didn't know how to teach me, but I was really smart too, but I had different things because I didn't have any care for anything anymore. So I just dropped out of school, and then I ended up going to jail. 11 months after my brother died, I flew through a car window from a car accident in my own car, which is crazy because I drive through that street all the time. But I died on the scene. I broke my neck and broke my back. Got ejected out of my own car at like 80 miles an hour. You would think that would stop people from doing stuff like that, but it just kept going. So those moments where you think life would change, they didn't come for me because I didn't care. I didn't think anything was going to matter anyways. The crazy thing is like I'm one of those people that I guess I could pay attention to my dreams, or like they just, a couple nights before that I had a dream like I was floating outside of my car, and there was a voice. I was like, I'm coming home. I'm going to heaven to see my brother. And the voice put me back in the car and he said, "No, it's not your time." I was like, "Dude, this sucks." Well, sure enough, I remember flying through the car window and smashing through some double limo tint because I had a Camaro and I was in the passenger side. I let one of my friends drive because I was too messed up, but yet he was still good enough to drive. He was messed up, you know. So yeah, we got hit and T-boned at an intersection that he ran, and I remember flying through the window, thinking, "Hey, I'm coming home. I'm gonna die." It didn't happen. That same voice from that dream said, "No, no, no, you're not. You're not coming home right now. It's not your time." I landed on the street and I did a bunch, like 18 cartwheels with my face and my head and my back and everything else. And I got covered with the blue sheet on the pavement. And one of my buddies was holding me when they took him took him away and took me away and covered me with the sheet. And he was covered in my blood. And a firefighter saw my foot twitch or something, and they realized I wasn't dead. So when I went to the hospital, and I remember them asking me questions in the paramedic, and on the ride there, I was going, it was pretty close to a hospital when it happened. Unfortunate for me, but they were asking who's the president, and I was like Ronald Reagan, and it's not Ronald Reagan. I think I was born during Reagan's time. So I was out there, but um, yeah, the stuff that comes out of our mouths, but like my head was bleeding and
Hmm.
my body was broken, and I was really messed up, and they didn't have my blood. But I can remember hearing the doctor tell my parents, who were able to show up at that moment, um, that I was gonna die because I they didn't have any blood for me. My dad was like, "I'm an O, you can have my blood," you know. Yes, that's kind of messes with me right now because after everything I put them through, still he's willing to still be my dad, still love
Right.
me, when I couldn't love myself, and that's deep, because I
Yeah.
but the blood stopped coming out of my head. I got this like chicken foot scar back here. It's covered by some long hair, and I got all this skin right here is new. It's all grown over, and my body actually healed. I had to learn how to walk again, how to use my motor skills. I was smelling colors. I was tasting things when nothing was in my mouth, just
Hmm.
really weird stuff. And then my head got jarred around so much. But you think that would stop? You think that would be a moment, right? Well, no. I ended up still having problems, still getting DUIs, still getting drugs and stuff. But I got into some really bad places with some people, and they tried to take my life. And I got a metal rod for a femur. I got a metal ankle. That all came from certain things, and that just enabled me to go out to get more doctors' prescriptions, and that finally led into the misuse of pills, but the access to it, insurance, and all these things, and it got really dark, really depressing. And then I was manipulating my family doctor into giving me all sorts of stuff, and it was just too easy. And when that went away, because I had a healthy cocaine habit as well as drinking and everything else, and then, but I had the right people around me to get those wrong things. So were they the right people?
They
Everything
were just.
everything was wrong. You know. So I ended up getting into some really bad areas with that, suicide attempts. Ended up going to the hospital for mental health a bunch of times. And it got to a really dark place, and I just stayed there for quite some time, and I didn't like where I was, but I didn't know how to get out. And then at this point in time, I was also very dependent on a lot of those chemicals, and that in its own is its own battle. That's really hard to come off of a lot of those things, and the pills wasn't even where it stopped, and it wasn't just ended with cocaine. I mean, I went straight to heroin. I was smoking crack, and I was doing all the other things as well, and that's what I thought I was going to end up doing and ending in. Like, there was nothing else after that, and that was pretty bad. But all along the time, it's like I had a job at the Ritz Carlton. I had jobs with brokerage firms. As a high school dropout, get a job at the Ritz Carlton or brokerage firms with a felony background. Anything's possible. So
Anything's possible.
dude, anything's possible. You know what I mean? And it's crazy what we can do, even if we're messed up.
Right.
And it's even better to know that, like, people say, like, once you stop doing things in life that are screwing you up, the real life shows up and you can enjoy it. And I was like, I just never thought I'd be older than 25. Then I reached 30. Then I reached 35. Then I reached 40. Now I'm 43. And I've got some battle scars from it. I got some aches and pains, but it's like life is actually a lot more of a blessing, and it's cooler today. And it seems to be that I was searching for this the whole time. I just honestly, I had to go to some programs. I had to go to jail, almost prison, but I had to learn how to forgive God, forgive myself. People say, "Why did you have to forgive God?" Well, because I blamed him for everything. And if I didn't forgive him for it, how could I get past it? Even though he's not the one that was responsible for it, he's actually the one that kept me alive through it all. You know,
Exactly.
but I had to go through a lot of craziness, a lot of painful stuff, not just physically but mentally, emotionally, and socially. You know,
Right.
believe it or not, like when you when I go through these things and I look at life today, like I go to clients' houses, I get like I go around individuals that would never look at you and think that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But if you were to tell them, they'd be like, well, oh, they only know you as you now. You know what I mean? They don't know this person or your background, where you came from. and then you catch them off guard if you get the opportunity to really open up to one, and it's very guarded if you do. You just give them little tidbits and like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful, but at the same time, you're like, man, inside of you or inside of me, when I'm saying these things, I'm like, I'm still trying to believe that I'm not that person anymore. That's one of the things I know that I have to get myself to understand. Like, change does happen, that transformation happens, you know what I mean? Like, revelation happens.
I
um
think transformation happens. I think revelation happens, and I think God showed up for you as I'm hearing your story and you're telling me all of these things that you've been through. I'm just like, by the grace of God, bro. Like He's been there for you, like every second, every moment. You're still His child, and that's amazing. If we can, bro, you just gave me a lot. That's a lot. I know that the listeners is gonna be like, man, this guy has been through a lot of tremendous things. Let's unpack some of these things here. I was taking some notes down, and
Sure.
I was like, all right, dad served in the military, preacher, mom. Um, you had some brothers, and then somebody entered your life and assaulted you. I wanted to touch a little bit on that part right there as we move a little bit forward. If you can tell me when that took place, um, how was that reaction through your mom and through your dad in regards to you, like either bringing that to their attention and removing this person out of you guys' life, out of your life?
So my parents didn't even really know about that happening until years later. The
Hmm.
individual that was in our home, that whole thing resolved itself, and he ended up leaving. Uh, a grown man should not lay with a boy that's not his
Absolutely
son.
not.
Certain things shouldn't be done. You should never get touched. You should never touch somebody a certain way, But unfortunately, this happened, and it actually happened by another individual before him. I was 8 when this actually started happening. The summer of '88, I think, is after we came back home from this summer camp, this place where you're supposed to be around trusted people. But you know, and before that, it was my oldest brother's friend, one of them. Um, and actually, something happened with me and another little boy, and we got caught. And see, the things that we were doing to each other is like 6-year-olds don't know these things.
Right.
Who taught you this?
Right.
So yeah, so those kinds of things, and that would plague my mind. You know what I mean? Because it would also put false thoughts inside my head, like, "Are you a homosexual?" Not saying that there's anything wrong with you if you are, but like it would make me feel insecure about myself. You
Right.
know, and for a long time, and I think that's part of where some of the rage came from. Because it began at a very very early age, but the situation itself resolved as this individual left, and it wasn't just sexual abuse that happened with that. There was a couple of times where we'd be driving down the road and he'd play chicken with the semi, and he'd literally scare the ever living crap out of us. And it wasn't just me; it was other kids in the car, and it was pretty.
I've never heard of playing chicken with a semi. I heard of Russian roulette. So tell me, what is
Yeah.
this? I never heard that.
You ever seen two kids play chicken on bicycles where they come at each other, and if one of them doesn't swerve, they hit? That's called chicken, a game of chicken. You know
Oh
what I mean?
snap!
Like,
Okay,
almost like a head-on collision, and
okay.
he's got this itty bitty little car with 6 of us packed in there, and I'm sitting in the back, and he loses his temper, yelling at somebody, just manically freaking out on a two-lane highway, and there's a semi coming, and at the last minute swerves out of the lane and runs off the road and stops the car, and, dude, we're like 9. You know, our whole
Hmm.
life of the whole 9 years just went through, you know what I mean, which you don't have many memories. You just freaked out, and this is the individual that, like, parents trusted their kids with, and, yeah, that actually really sucked,
Yeah,
so
that's wild, man. If you can, man, tell me a little bit about like your relationship. What was that like with your mom and dad while you was growing up, while you was going through this traumatic experience?
it was as loving as it could be. I mean, my dad tried to be the most loving that he could, loving dad that he could. He couldn't really relate, um because his thing was like he wanted to work out with weights, and he was a
Mhm.
bodybuilder, and he spent a lot of time in the church, and he spent a lot of time also in depression, and so there was no like playing football or riding bikes together. I don't remember too much of that. As a little kid, he'd play with us in the pool, or he'd push us on the swing, at a park. But that kind of faded away after a while. But like he did his best as a dad. But my mother was also she was the strong one when things were rattled in his area, and she did the best that she could. But neither one of them were ever able to help me with my homework. You know, I think that was a generational thing because of
Mhm.
it just wasn't there. So the relationship was, uh, my oldest brother ended up raising us a lot of the time, and he's 15 years older. And then when we were younger, he got sent to the military, and then I didn't see him for a good 10 years, and then he shows back up, kind of thing, or 5 years or something like that. But so the relationship with my father and mother, even though it was loving, it was absent. They weren't there as much as they wanted to be or could be, and then when they were there, they didn't know how to interact like parents would, I guess.
S- So, if you could, how did you respond emotionally to this going on with in your life with your parents, and then in addition to that, you lost your brother, and you were mentioned that you had a lot of guilt or that was going on with you. You
Yeah.
know, now this is an impact on the entire family. You know what I mean? So if you can tell me a little bit about like what was that time period in your life like for you and your family?
During that time period, my mother and father were spending a lot of time on the road, going to different churches and stuff. And my brother and I had become very popular in the neighborhoods. There was a lot of kids around, a lot of friends. I used to sell a lot of pot, sell pot to my friends, to my brother's friends, and all that. So at any given time, there was always 12 to 10 to 15 kids at the house. And we weren't kids, we were young adults. Um, and then my mother and father, they at this point realized it was better to have us safe at home instead of out running around getting caught. So they're just like, just here, here's the house. Just
Right.
we know you're gonna do whatever you want. Just do it here. Where you're safe. And so they had been gone, and my brother and I, and then when he died, it devastated my father and my mother and me as well. But my mother's sister came to comfort her. My dad was going his through his emotions, and then like of course my friends showed up. So we were in the back room, and then they were in the main house, and then I punched through a glass window and I cut my thumb off. Um, and then they sewed that back on. So how did I end up dealing with it? I didn't, and the crazy thing is when I still have to talk to my aunt about this one, because when she came down to visit and console my mother, and she got mad at me, she's like, "Why are you acting like this? Don't you know that your mother just lost her son?" And I was like, "Bitch, that was my brother." Sorry, that was my brother. Wait a minute,
Yeah.
who am I? Am I non-existent?
Right.
Like that was my other half. I used to tell people there's two sides of a coin, and my brother was one side of a coin and I was the other. You had a yin and a yang, and you have a hot and a cold. You have a good and a bad. And my brother was always really kind. He was always really nice, really fun, and I wasn't so much. So when I lost him, I lost that gauge of humanity. You know, and it just went away. And how do we deal with it? We didn't. Not the right way. I ended
Right.
up going to jail right after that because I violated probation. I was on probation for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and sure enough, my brother showed up there the pacifist that he was showed up there to help me. I was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Man, I'm here for you."
Mm-hmm.
It was odd, man. Like he would show up at different places where he knew I was at. He'd be like, "I'm here for you." I was like, "Bro, you got to go. You'll get hurt here. You'll probably get killed if they, just leave." Because he wasn't that natured person. But when he died, how did we handle it as a family? You would think healthily, but I don't think anybody handles death healthy. But how did I handle it? I shut down. I went. I was like, you know what? If this is it, then all you guys. I hate to say it like that, but it was like screw the world. You
Mm-hmm.
know. And then life just started to like get blurry, so to say, at those moments. 11 months after my brother's death, on the same day, I flew through the car window and I died on the scene. Here's the crazy thing. For years, for over 20 years, this is what's been on my heart. And that day of my brother's death, it was absolutely horrible. October 17th to the 20th, 1998, my daughter, God's given me a gift with my little girl in a life, is born October 20th. How am I supposed to deal with that kind of emotion? The
Mm.
same day that my brother died, my daughter gets born 20 years later. I've hated that day for my whole life. Now I'm forced to love it and a little present.
I think
So,
he showed up for you, man, and
yeah.
kind of was a message like your brother's in a good place,
Oh, yeah.
and he delivered you a gift to put a smile back on your face. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Hey, man. So we're gonna transition here a little bit, but I did want to talk about something here. So you said addiction was a thing for you, suicide attempts, and all those are like some real profound type of struggles. So if you can, man, tell me a little bit about like this melting pot situation that took place. Like everything was you're dealing with the people that was in your church, you're dealing with the people in your neighborhood, and you were seeing them, and there was a whole bunch of things going on. Then you said that at some particular point, there was some stuff with some skinheads, and that started affecting you. At what point in your life, dealing with these guys, did you say like, I need to leave this situation or get out of this situation, and just try to do something else or do something better?
I really didn't see a way out for a long time. So after my brother died, I almost died, and then I went to jail. When I got out of jail, I came back to an empty house, and then like the things changed. Like one of my best friends moved in, and I thought I'd start, living life somewhat of a better way like that because his twin brother got killed a year before that, and we all knew each other. So he became my fill-in brother. You know,
Hmm.
and I think that's when I wanted to actually start living. I just didn't know how. And
Hmm.
what I was doing was not the right kind of way of living. And eventually, 6 months to a year after that, I moved out of that house. I think it was about a year after that. That's when I got a job at the Ritz Carlton, and I still was like I was not a good employee. I had the overnight position, so it's like, yeah, me and the valet'd be out tearing up on the streets with somebody's car. I don't know who it was. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But, I think that's when life started changing into, like, this is adulthood, you
Right.
know, and, I didn't it was, that was 2020 till about 22, and then, I moved in with the guy from the Ritz. His name was Michael, and, he was a good friend until things started changing on that end too. Like, he ended up some really bad stuff happened to him too, so, like, he's no longer, around. I think he's still in prison, but, so, um, and then at the age of, like, 25, um, it gets really blurry, bro. Like, that's I was drinking extremely heavy, doing a lot of cocaine and a lot of pills, and but I know that I was no longer a kid, and I just didn't talk about like I didn't talk about what I had grown up like, you know what I mean? And I had made new friends. Of course, they were all just as sick as the other friends I just had. They just came with different faces, But while I would get locked up, they would give us the opportunity to go check out AA or like find a way to get help classes, see therapists, all this stuff. And I wanted to know why I was so twisted at that moment, and I didn't want to feel the way I felt anymore either, like, because there's nothing cool about being a grown man, um, knowing that you're so messed up inside that when you sleep, you cry, you know, and that sucked because, like, I'd be crying in my dreams because I'd be either having flashbacks to, like, what I was going through, or, like, I'd be seeing my brother and I couldn't talk to him, he wouldn't hear me, but, like, there was a lot of pain inside there, and, so, like, those are the things that still kinda stick with you as you go through time, even though your places can change, the
Mhm.
things around you can change, your scenarios can change, lots of things can change, but what's inside of you or what's inside of me was still there, and it was still the same, and it was still drawing me to want to not feel that way anymore, and it came in phases of, like, release, It came in phases of, like, looking into, like, myself, what I could do to help myself, you know, um, who I could put myself around, because the places I was putting myself around were not healthy. So I had to change that, I had to change. I couldn't go to the bars, couldn't, hang out with certain individuals, when I got home from wherever I was at, incarcerated or whatever program I was in, I had to empty the house out and, find all the secret little stash places that I used to put stuff in and throw that away too, you know what I mean? To really be honest with it, because, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna throw all this stuff out except for that. I mean, I'm gonna leave some of those," 3 o'clock in the morning, when you're pretty bored or when, you're not feeling okay,
Temptation.
your little dude in the back of the head's like, "Oh, you remember that one spot you
Yeah.
didn't clean out just because of this? Let's go get that," and then off to the races you go for another 8 months,
And
and then,
spiral.
yeah. So, I think
So
that
you went to jail, and I've heard quite a few different people's story about jail. What was being locked up or going to jail? What, if you could share, what was that like? And did you learn any lessons in there as you was getting ready to get out and stuff?
yeah, not good ones. That's where I met one of my first illegal business partners in. That's where I learned what they call, an elevated level of game, and that's where I would see a lot of my other friends when they weren't in the neighborhood, you know? But at the same time, I learned that it's straight misery in there, you know what I mean? And it's like I would go in there and, I would literally think that, this was this is why I don't ever wanna get caught. I didn't think that this is why I should change my life. I should switch what I'm doing because I'm ending up in here every time or the hospital. No, my brain was still messed up. It's like, I'm not gonna get caught doing this again, I don't wanna get caught doing anything. But my mother would let me know that when I was in jail, they slept at night. They had peace.
Oh,
So what did I learn when I went to jail? I was like, when I went to jail, my family was at ease, because it was very hard for me to either get killed or die or do something extremely devastating to where I'd end up never around again. So they got some rest. And I learned that in jail that, like, there is no comfortable place. There is no good food. There's nobody you can really trust. There's no love, and there's no life. Not like that, and but it took me a long time to learn that because um I kept going back, and not only that, I kept taking things from in there out and trying to use what I learned in there, done in there out here, and it was a vicious cycle. I know now today that that's not the place I ever want to spend any more time in. It's cold. It's it's dirty. You know, I don't like the psych ward. Believe it or not, the jail has a jail under it, and I've been there too. And they take all your clothes and they stick you in a solid brick block room with nothing but a green mat that you can't tear or eat or do anything with. So I know that it can get worse. That's what I learned about jail. It can get worse, just like
Wow.
any life. You know.
Um, so you were on the street. They almost pronounced you dead, or if not pronounced you dead, and they seen your feet moving. You find yourself in the hospital, and you needed blood from your dad. Once you came to and you realize you're alive and you're living, and God gave you another chance to live, tell me about what started resonating with you once you was there in the hospital.
Um, well, my head stopped bleeding, so they didn't have to transfuse. They didn't have to do a thing with my dad for blood. Um, when I got home from the hospital, man, all I could do was weep. It was sad, dude. It was super, super painful, and it was also really, really empty inside. There was a void. There's just like this black hole inside of my chest. There was a pit. The food I ate, I couldn't even taste it. That's how bad things were. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but like there was no color. You see how colorful your hat is? To me, it could have been black and white. You know what I mean? I like the hat, by the way. There was nothing. There was nothing, man. It was pretty crappy, dude.
I got you, bro. Hey, man. So I'm gonna transition here, man. I know that you're a man of God. I know that you changed your life. So at what particular point of you going through all these things here, bro? I have here you lost your senses, anxiety, molested, suicide, fights, drugs, bad business deals, um, life in a tailspin, guilt, unforgiveness. At what point did you say, let me break the bottle with all of these things that I'm bottling in and say, I'm going to change my life? At what particular point in your life did this come to fruition for you?
I want to say I can put an instance on it is 7 years ago. Um, no, 8 years ago. So 8 years ago, I had left. I was I had left jail out of a program to avoid going to prison, and then I went to another place that was like this religious kind of halfway or whatever. And then from there, I left there, and then I went to a year long program, and it was a very religious program. But I can remember at that moment, I didn't no longer want to. I needed something, and I was like, whatever I got to do is what it's going to do. So it was like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I decided to go and do this one program, which actually they still kicked me out 2 weeks before graduation. But so I did it almost for a full year. But that's when I know that I made the actual. I'm going to try to do something for myself, and
Hmm.
do something hard, And I also knew that I needed to be rewired. I needed to have um, the connection parts in here taken out and then screwed around, redid this and put back together and shoved back in there because what I was thinking on and what I was using for logic was it was not good, and it didn't work, So I want to say 8 years ago. I don't know if I'm allowed to say program names or stuff, you know what I mean? But
Yes, man.
it was a very difficult place for me to be at. Because a lot of the exterior problems that I still dealt with were still at this kind of environment out there in the middle of the sticks of like a country bumpkin kind of place. Here I am, brown skin, tattoos, look like a homeboy, talk like a surfer dude, and pray like a Christian. You know what I mean? That's like I was, you know what I mean? And so, everybody else around there had boots, blue jeans, and plaid on. So I still had to deal with some stuff. But I knew that if I could apply myself into this area with what they had there, because I heard good things about it, because there were some people in my life still that were fighting for me. One of the pastor friends of my dad actually went through this program many, 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 many years back. And he's one of the people that I actually admired, looked up to. I saw the change in him. He lived a rough enough life to talk to me about things that I could relate to. So I would listen to him, and he said he did this, and I was like, "Dude, if this guy can do it and he's living life like this now, I want a piece of that." So I went there and I did that, and I think that's when it started. I think that's
Gotcha.
really actually started.
So, how do you find motivation and inspiration to keep on going during like tough times as you've made this transition in your life?
Motivation and inspiration, right? So, like, motivation for me is twofold. One, I get motivated because I know that if I stay stagnant, I'll get depressed, I'll get sore, I'll get like weak, like physically. It'll make me not, I don't want to lay around a whole lot,
Hmm.
so I'll get up and move, but like I'll be motivated because I want to do things that like I'll make time for, that if I go out and get up and work now, I can do those things. And it's not even really for me, it's for my family. Because if they're having fun, then I'm having fun. If they're enjoying life, then I'm enjoying life. Inspiration comes in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? Like from the people we see around us, Bro, I'll be honest with you, dude. Physical things don't really attract me so much. It's the fact that when somebody wants to look you in the eyes and you can do that, that to me is inspiring. You know what I mean? When somebody genuinely smiles or they give you a good handshake or a hug, you know what I mean? Those kinds of things really mean something to me. It's cool to have nice cars and big house and all these things, but that's not the real of it. The real inspiring people that I have in my life, I mean, they've got some of these things, of course, but they've got something inside that I want. They have peace, they have confidence, they have love, they got joy, they got, lots of the things that I struggle to try to get in my life that I thought was going to come with this gold necklace or this nice car, and this money in my pocket. None of that crap gave any, you know, but these people have it. So that's what I find inspiration in, like, the true gifts, you know?
Right.
So, and it's really weird just because 'cause I'm not like Dalai Lama or Buddha or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's like, bro, those are the things that I actually wanted this whole time that I was seeking out that I couldn't really see because I was too inebriated or I was too jealous or too selfish, whatever it might have been. There was too much of something in front of me for me to be able to see what I actually really truly wanted and needed. We're both the same
Hmm.
thing, you know.
So,
Most
how did all of these experiences help shape your characters now, your character about yourself, and the values that and the morals that you live by now today?
all these experiences that I had, how do they shape me, my values? First of all, man, like I can see some dangerous things before anybody else can. I hate to say it like that, you know what I mean? It's like I won't drive down that street. It's not necessarily a street, you know what I mean? It's like certain things you get this intuition, and it's like, and I'm not saying that I grew up on the hard streets of anywhere, you know what I mean? I've just been in some bad stuff, because right around the corner from the neighborhood that I was born in, there's $1 million homes. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So it's just the way I grew up, I think, formed me into a person who has some pretty good intuition. You know what I mean? Like I can see some things sometimes, and also when I'm speaking with somebody, you know what I mean. I can relate to where they're at. And also it's like it's really weird because like that feeling that you get that you're no longer stuck in that realm. You know, it's more about the intuition, I guess. What I lived through, how I deal with experiences today. Uh, it took a lot of work to take away my quick reactions of anger or like my prejudice on things. You know what I mean? Like my first impression of things. You know what I mean? It's like I would think immediately, and I'd be stuck with that opinion no matter what, without giving something a chance. Without being open minded or open eared to listen to and finding out the truth behind something and finding out it's completely wrong to start with. So, and being able to see how people are as individuals, and like my perception of things is never, or it wasn't ever really truly correct. So through patience and like being able to be open and listen to somebody talk or like explain what's going on, then I'd see a situation better, you know. And that's helped me that's helped me a lot, you know, to understand how to like interact with people, you know. Kindness is a big thing too. You know what I mean? You get a lot with a genuine smile, you know. So I think that answers some of that question for you.
Yeah, what I was gonna also follow up is, so how do you, what kind of strategies that James have in place? So you may be having a bad day or whatever it may be. So, like, what are some strategies? What are some techniques that you put into place for like self reflection, self care, your own personal well being, your own personal mental health, your own personal peace of mind? What are some things that you put in place to make sure that you're in the right space and good headspace?
So if I want to be in good headspace, man, I keep aware of like what I let into my head.
Hmm.
I don't listen to the same kind of music anymore. You know, that's an easy one for me. Like I changed what I was feeding these things. You know, like if I'm listening to, you know, I'm gonna sell dope and I'm gonna pimp hoes and I'm gonna do all this and boom, you know, that's not gonna be good for me. Then again, so is like, you know, rah rah rah, let's go kill everybody kind of. So believe it or not, I don't listen to a lot of that. It used to be on my old playlist, but like today, I'm probably a little bit. People look at me and be like, "Yo, what's on your playlist?" Yeah, it just went from Tupac to Need to Breathe. You know what I mean? Which is a Christian group, and then I got country on there, and I'm like, you know, so it's like, I actually make a real effort to keep things healthy that go in there, and like I'll listen to some self-help stuff on the radio, you know what I mean, or like seminars, you know. I'll listen to people, I'll listen to books on Audible, you know, and I'll listen to some of the Steve Harvey, people like
Hmm.
that. I listen to him, you know what I mean? And then but I also have a group of guys that I talk with on a regular, you know what I mean? And like I'll vent to them or they'll vent to me, you know, which is very key because it's very rare that I have to vent the way I used to anymore. But like when I really need them, they're there. And you know the best thing about it is that like they're not gonna be like, yeah, F this, let's go to the bar and you know that person sucks, so you should tell them off, you know. So like I get around people that are like solution based, you know what I mean, that give perspective, you know, and probably bring me out of my realm or just sometimes just to like dump if we need to, you know, or like have fun with and joke, you know, is like so it's a good thing to do. And then be honest with you, man, if I'm in a bad spot, I'll straight up tell on myself. I mean, because I know where they can end up. I'll be like, dude, I am not in a good place. I'm thinking about doing something stupid. And I'll say exactly what I'm thinking about doing. And the minute that comes out of my mouth, it does not seem as appealing because I actually told somebody too. Because now there's a witness, you know, and there's accountability with that. And it's also like, it takes away the power of that actual dangerous thought, which can in turn become an action if I'm not aware of it, you know, because if I dwell on it and think about it too much, man, I'll run with it and then it can run away with me. And
Hmm.
I will lose everything that I have. That little girl that you saw run in before we started recording this, you know, I don't want to not be able to hug her, hold her, kiss her, hear her voice. You know what I mean? I don't want to be stuck behind a plate glass looking at her grow up, you know? So those thoughts come into my mind too if I'm in a bad space, you know, but like if I'm I remember the sweet things in life are great. You know what I mean? The taste of some fruit, you know, the smell of the wind, you know. It's really weird because like I like some of those sappy sentimental things. Be like, it's actually pretty cool, you know? I enjoy that stuff, you know, and it's like because
No,
I
that's all good, bro. I love the awareness. I love the transformation. I love the transparency and love the vulnerability. Your message is one to hear. because you come from a tough spot, bro. I want to know now. You kind of touched on it here shortly, recently, but what is this James like with his family? Like, what is family life like now?
Um, family life is it's like this. I don't know if you can see this picture. No, not really. There's a
Yeah,
little, you
I can
know,
see it.
I'm one of those dads that has, multiple pictures of my daughter, my wife, friends, people, family. What is family life for me? It's genuine. Um, it's enjoyable. It comes with its struggles, like anything.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's another reason why I actually cry. I cry because I'm actually blessed with this.
Absolutely, man. I love it, bro. Um, I could think of like some of my situations, man, and I've gotten through that strictly because of my family, my wife, my kids. And I told you when we got started, man, when I was at my lowest point, that's what when God and came and spoke to me, like, bro, you got a family, you got a purpose, and you got a story. Hey, man. So as we get ready to wrap things up here, um, I deeply know that you're a man of God, a man of faith, and he played a significant role in where you're at today. Can you talk about, share a little bit about like your faith, how that provided strength into you being resilient and your transformation in your life right now?
So if I were to think about it, like I would consider myself close to what a prodigal son would be. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like God never left me. As a matter of fact, he held me up when I was dying, and because I walked away from him, because of his blessings, you know, I'm able to live a life that, I love, you know, because of his work, his sacrifice, everything that he's sending his Holy Spirit, angels, whatever, all these things, I'm able to feel love myself, forgive myself. God is the number one first thing that I wake up and think in the morning is God. I was told that I was gonna be a paraplegic, crippled. You know, I was also told that I was never gonna see the light of day again. I don't know. There's so many different ways that I was told that life was gonna be taken away from me, but yet here I am, and I didn't do this alone. Matter of fact, God put people in my life to get me to this point today, and I'm grateful that He actually did that for me. Because apparently He felt like I was worthy. They feel like I'm worthy, so now I'm gonna start feeling like I'm worthy. You know, um, I'm truly grateful that God has brought me to this point in my life because I didn't think it was ever gonna come. I didn't think I'd experience these kinds of things. And yeah, God's beautiful. He's making something beautiful for me, and I get to enjoy it. Now, I want to work on trying to keep it. Just because He gave it to me doesn't mean that that's it. I want to figure out a way how to make it grow, how to make it elevate, how to help it blossom because it's beautiful. Like I see beautiful things today. You know what I mean? That's a really cool thing because only God could have done that for me. I didn't really, like I said, man, color lost color, taste lost flavor. So they say like the salt was put back in something.
Hmm.
Like there's a new charge for life, you know, and I think that's beautiful. So that's a
If you can, when you look towards inspiration, in addition to your faith and belief, um, did throughout your process in your journey, was there any coaches, any mentors, a book, or anything along the line of your transformation that played a part in your life?
yeah, yeah, there was. So like I had a couple really cool sponsors from these groups that I used to go to, AA and NA. I got a really good one right now because I'm actually practicing AA. Um, that's not for everybody, but if you find something out there that works for you, I'd say go for it. Get one of these people. When I was younger, like I said, the dude that helped me get into that program, his name is Rick Cross. He was solid. I pray for him because I don't know where he's at today. I wish I did, but everybody has a life, and we separated in ours, not by bad accord or anything, but you know what I mean. That dude made an impact on my life. And there's a book that I read. I'm not a big Bible thumper. I don't read the Bible every day, kind of thing. But like, I got guys in my life that we send each other scriptures, to wake up to, and I read the scripture when I wake up, and it's very helpful. And then actual book that I read, it's the one that I like, and it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I hate to say that, but that's the name of the actual book,
Hmm?
and it's all in like weird lettering for the FUCK word, but that's the word. And it's got some really cool stuff in it. And then again, I do like other books on Audible about like the thinking patterns of like people, and like self-help books, and then like parenting books. Believe it or not, some of these parenting books that I'm trying to learn how to parent for my daughter are telling more about me than they are my daughter. And I'm like, holy crap, that makes so much sense. Man, I'm screwed. And I was like, yeah. So a lot of these things, I seek out healthy things and knowledge, and I've got some. My daughter's godfather is one of my closest friends, and he's got a rougher backstory than I do, and this guy is solid. And I bounce things off of him all the time. He's one of my best friends, and he runs a multi-million-dollar company, started it from nothing. And talk about somebody who had a rough one. He was on meth for most of his life. And he's a shot out individual. And now he's a solid person. I trust him enough to grant him my daughter if I were to die. God forsake that. But you know what I mean? So like, there's people out there, as long as I can in some way relate. And even if I can't now, because of what I've been able to accomplish, I needed to relate to somebody to be able to talk to them. But some good books would be, The Subtle Art, my sponsor, some close dudes in my life, some friends. And of course, when I meet people like you and the guys that we're a group part of. Certain individuals connect more than others, and it's okay if I don't connect with them. You know what I mean? Not in this way. But just connecting back to God, and that was my biggest thing. Because then He connected me with everything else. It's kind of weird to say.
No, I totally get it, man. I totally get it. All right, bro. So you have made the ultimate 360. Because you could have easily not been here. You could have easily given up. Um, but you made a decision to say, I'm going to live my life and change my life. You have so much experience. You've seen it all. You've experienced childhood trauma. You've been to jail. You have experience with drugs, suicide. Before we get out of here, man, can you share to our listeners some key takeaways, some key advice, some key lessons that you would like to share to our listeners? Floor is yours.
Um, Connect with something that means something inside you and hold on to it. You know, like, if there's nothing out there, don't give up. You know, I don't know what else I would have done, but like, I knew that if I had just one person, then I could get through something, and God always blessed me with that. You know what I mean? And it's okay to not be okay. And then I had to figure out how to release relieve myself from a lot of that pain. So I would seek out the good answers. I would seek out the ones that I knew, not the ones that were easy, but the ones that I knew were right. And then because there's that little voice inside of all of us, especially inside me, and I had to listen to it, and I had to do some hard stuff, and I still have to do some hard stuff, but I'll seek out what's healthy, because we know what's healthy and we know it's not. We know it's easy and we know it's not, you know. So I chose to do some of those harder things, and they paid off with some patience, and some perseverance. I gave up on trying to have like instant gratification. Like, I want a result right now, because it's not always the case. It wasn't with me. I had to learn that. I heard a lesson and it said, God's delay is not his denial.
That's right.
Bro, that was some real stuff, because I waited years for some of this, and it's still taking effect. You know what I mean? But The one thing I know is I had to tell myself I could do it. So there's something about speaking life, not only into everything around you or the others around you, but I had to tell myself that. And I had to really start to believe it because until I started to believe it, man, I really wasn't trying. And I needed to make a real effort on working on myself before anything else around me got better, because I was the only one keeping me away from everything. Hope that helps.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the advice. I think it's truly impactful the message that you're sharing, as you had some key experiences that are real life that I think a lot of people could resonate with. So, as we get ready to wrap up and get out of here, man, if someone wanted to work with you, if somebody wanted to contact you, and just ask you to share your story, or just be a voice, or do anything with you, man, how can anybody get in touch with you?
So I have my cell numbers. This is area code 561-574-3751. You can call me on that one. I have a business line you can also call, and that one is 561-906. I think, let me come in here and just read it real quick. 906-6274. Text messaging also works. You can email me, which is that's a 50-50, man, because I get a lot of spam and I don't always get my emails. But you can email me at ANEWCHILD, a new child 7777 at Gmail. And that's a really old email, but that name is stuck, so you can say hi to me that way. And also on Facebook, James Graham. Uh, look for the dude with the white hat and just a goofy smile. And so if you want, that's how you can find me.
Got you, bro. Got you. All right, man. So, thank you for coming on, sharing your story, especially from a men's point of view. Not too much men are vulnerable and transparent about some of the things that you talked about. So I truly, truly want to tell you thank you for that and coming on here, sharing your story and being an inspiration. Um, I'm Michael Allison, your host. We're joined today by Mr. James Graham. Until next time, guys, we love you. Peace.
Later.
Can't complain at all. Couple dollars in my pocket, know it come and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.